Welcome back. Today I want to talk about the biggest mistakes that I see people making when they're buying a car. Now, you might have heard the Fed just cut rates, so we're going to see a lot of rate specials coming out of dealerships. We're also going into the holiday season, so we're going to see all of those Christmas specials coming out and that kind of fun stuff. So there are going to be a lot of cars flying off the shelves, and a lot of people make these mistakes. Don't be one of them because it's going to cost you a lot of money on the back end. I promise you, this will make your car buying experience a lot better and save you a lot of money. Now, the first one is financing through the dealership. I know a lot of people that say, well, I want to figure out what car I want, and I kind of have an idea, and then I'll figure out the money side of it later. That's the wrong way you want to do it. You want to go the other way. You want to get the money first. Go to your primary financial institution. They're going to give you a better deal than the dealership because here's a fun secret, and I've actually asked to see this when buying cars. They have a sheet that tells them, based on the different institutions that they go to, what their commission is. So they have this natural conflict of interest to what you're doing, which is trying to get the best deal, and what they're doing, which is get the biggest commission, right? So they're just going to send you, and then they're going to run your credit through all these different institutions. I went to one, they ran it 6 times for one car so they could try to find the one that had the best commission for them. And I ended up going with none of them and going with my primary financial institution anyways, which really made them happy. That's not the point. But do not go to the dealership without knowing what your financing already is. Have that already set up. You can get pre-approved at any place that you really go, any bank, credit union, whatever, will pre-approve you for the loan. Then you take that and you go, I'm good up to a certain number, right? Then when you start to think about the money, this is another one that I see people make where they go, well, I want my monthly payment to be whatever, $500. And that's all they're focused on is the monthly payment. How do we get to that monthly payment? And then what they end up doing is they'll run the term of the loan way out and they'll be paying the loan off for the next 8 years. But hey, their payment was $500. The interest rate is much higher because the risk to the bank that you went to is higher. So they charge you more for it, right? Where if you went, okay, well, it's $500 and I'm only going to pay for it for 5 years. Cut 3 years off the back end of that because I'm probably going to want a new car by that point, right? And now what amount makes sense for me based on, and you can ask your bank this when you go there. What is the rate that you can give me? This is what I want my payment to be. How much car can I afford for the term that makes sense for me, right? A car dealership is not going to do that for you. They're going to say, well, we got you your monthly payment. You're paying for it forever, but that's fine, right? So go to your bank, go ask them, okay, this is what I want to do. How much car can I afford? And then you start to shop in that price range, right? Now, one of the other big things that I see people do is when they go to the dealership, they only focus on the price of the car and they try to negotiate with them only on the price of the car. The biggest thing that the dealership really looks at is how much were their sales this month. They don't look at the other stupid things that go into it. You can negotiate around so many other things, right? Now you may say, $30,000 is the only price range that I can fit within. I can't go above that. Or if I do, it starts to really eat away at my extra income and I don't want my payment to be higher. But if you say, look, man, I've got to be at $30,000, you're at 32, so you got to give me some stuff for free. I want free oil changes. I want free tire rotations. I want the rubber floor mats. Be creative, think way outside the box when you start negotiating, because a lot of times they're willing to make a ton of concessions around all this other stuff that they wouldn't touch the price for. But you can get the value back where that couple $1,000s pays itself up. You know what? I want the warranty thrown in there for free. Okay, we can do that. I've watched them do that. I've negotiated this with them. That is the second biggest mistake, is just focusing on the price when they go to get a car. And it might actually be worth it to you to go, quote, outside of your budget here on this by a little bit if you get a ton of extra value and all this stuff. When I got my new car, I went and bought rubber floor mats for it anyways. I got kids who play sports. It was $200, $300 for the rubber floor mats. That's what it is. Well, if they throw that in for free and I go $200 over my budget, well, I was going to spend that anyways, right? So like now that's fine-ish, right? You got to make it work for you. I'm not saying go blow your budget out of the water, but think when you negotiate outside of just the numbers that are sitting on the sheet in front of you. The last thing, and I'm going to lose a lot of people here and they're going to get really angry at me, especially BMW drivers, which happens to be my wife, is that when they go to buy a car, they get focused on the badge on the steering wheel sitting in front of them. The top 5 brands driven by millionaires, top 5 car brands are Toyota, Honda, Ford, Lexus, and Subaru. Not BMW, Rolls-Royce, Bentley, and no. What millionaires look for is value, right? They don't look for price. They don't look for they look for value. So when they go to buy a car, they want a car that has a great value to it. I don't really care what the price is because I've got the money, but if it's not a good value for money, then what's the point, right? And I'm not so concerned with what you think of me. I know what my bank account thinks of me. I know what my bank thinks. I don't care about you. I'm good. I'm a millionaire. Boom. But if I'm worried about what you think, I'm going to go buy a car that I can't afford. Like a BMW is the number one example car where these people go buy them and it's this $800,000-$900,000 payment, and then they can't afford it at some point, and they're like, oh my God, I'm going to default to my BMW with all this other stuff. You shouldn't have bought a BMW in the first place, man. Like, buy the right car. Sit down and say, what do I need out of the car? How many seats do I need? Do I need all-wheel drive? You know, do I need the head thing to put the overhead storage box, the Thule box on there, right? Do I need all this other stuff? What do I actually need out of the car? Then go to the bank and get the money that you need and say, okay, this is how much I want to afford, I should afford. Then you start to figure out what fits within that price range and checks off the boxes of the things that you have. Because if you say I need all-wheel drive, well, you can get that out of a Mini Countryman. You don't need to go buy a Range Rover or an F-350 King Ranch, right? But if you need the bed space, then you got to start looking at trucks, and you have to define it off of things that aren't the badge on the steering wheel. And I watch people do this all the time because they're worried about what the other parents are going to say when they're sitting in the parent pickup line. And I promise you, ask yourself this question. How many times has one of your friends gotten a new car and you sat around all night talking about their new Land Rover? Never, ever. Nobody cares about cars like that. I mean, I love cars, and I'll talk about Ferraris and Lamborghinis and all that stuff all day. None of my friends own them. Even if they did, I wouldn't sit down and talk about that. I'd be like, how's life? How's work? You move on immediately. So don't make that mistake. That is the most costly mistake that you can make that buries people financially. So, quick recap. Finance through your primary bank, credit union, whatever it is, financial institution. Do that. When you go to the dealership and you have your number, negotiate with them outside of the parameters of price to try to get as much extra value extracted from that purchase as you can. And dear God, lastly, do not focus on the brand. Get a good brand with a good value that makes sense for you. Do what makes the most financial sense. Don't do what makes the most, I don't know, socio status sense. Don't do that. Nobody cares. No one's paying attention, I promise. And if I didn't completely lose you or make you mad, well, thank you for watching, and I will see you next week.